What is up, good people? This is Tamara Chapman, and you are listening to Daily Affirmations for the Big Girl in All of Us, the Morning After podcast. The podcast follows topics discussed in the previous night's episode of the Daily Affirmations for the Big Girl in All of Us web series, so let's get into it. Today's show marks the second episode of our podcast, and I owe a great debt of gratitude to my DAFT Big Girl co-hosts assisting me in the studio today. Joining me are Marilyn Fisher, Sharia Robinson, and Mashawn Banks. Hello, ladies. How are you all doing today?
Hey, Tammy.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Tammy?
Thank you all very much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's always my hope that people perceive me to be appreciative when requesting anything of anyone. I realize that everyone has something else they could be doing rather than watching my vlogs, web series, or listening to my podcast. This brings us to the topic of last evening's show, needing a new perspective. My entire life, I've struggled with other people's perceptions of me. Am I good enough, fast enough, smart enough, talented enough to get into this school, make that team, win first chair? I gauged my success by the validation I received. Great job, Tammy. Job well done. And if I'm being totally honest with myself, I still do. Only as an adult, it's less the praise from my parents and teachers I seek, but now my employers who demonstrate my value via pay increases, or in the case of DAFTBGIAOU, the validation I seek is from members of the audience who reward me with the likes, follows, and subscriptions. When I perceive that I've done something well, I exhibit a more positive perspective about the things that I engage in. However, when I fall short, I'm reminded that the negative perceptions I developed as a child never went away. Phrases like, don't take biology unless you're going to major in science. You should sign up for home economics instead, when selecting my courses for freshman year in high school, or you're getting too big for your height, still resonates in the back of my mind. When I don't achieve a specific milestone, it is difficult to put these thoughts at bay and not succumb to the temptation to let them ruin my day. My perspective of self shifts, and gone is the confidence or feeling of well-being I had for the progress I just made. So much for celebrating the 2 pounds I lost this week. It's not enough, Tammy. Work harder. Do you all remember anything that happened in your childhood that has shaped your perception and thus your perspective on things? Or perhaps how you feel about yourself? Mashawn, we'll start with you.
I wore glasses when I was younger. So, of course, me running track, I always had my glasses, and then, I became a jumper. Mm-hmm. So jumping in that sand with my glasses on was a no-go for me because I did not want to wear that band behind the head. That was not cute to me. I didn't like it. So I'm running down the runway and in these glasses, and then I jump in the sand. So when you fall in the sand or you land, you can land on your butt, you can land, you can flip. It just depends on how you land, how you run it. It all depends on your speed. And I'm telling you, these glasses will fly off my face. But I needed the glasses to see. For me, it was all about the look, and I did not want the band. But as I got older, in college, I transitioned from glasses to contacts. So it kind of worked this way out. Just in high school, I had to deal with the glasses thing.
See, I don't even remember you wearing glasses.
I do too.
I take that
wore
back.
Glasses,
I remember,
but sometimes I had to take them off.
Right.
To run, and that was like my vision was in 2020. So I'm running. Thank God I stayed in my lines. So, I would say as I look back from my childhood, that would be one of the things that I should have what was I thinking? Why didn't I do that? But I was younger. I've learned to accept people for who they are, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody may have a different challenge. Like mine, younger years were, me wearing the glasses, and I wanted to look a certain way. I didn't want to look like the goofball, if that's what you want to call it. I didn't want to look, because you had to realize I was the person that At that time in high school, everybody watched 100. Everybody watched the 200. Or, oh, Sean is getting ready to run. And I just had all that attention on me. I did not want that band behind my head. It was just something I just didn't want, right? So, but now that I'm grown and my daughter, she wears glasses. Then it was totally different. But now that I look at it, I see my daughter and I even suggested, I said, well, babe, why don't you just wear the band? And absolutely, she said, no, Mom, I'm not wearing the band either. So I did not pick. I did not say. I said, so are you going to take because she's a jumper. She does high jump. She does long jump and triple jump, which she really needs contact. So what I did is try to, introduce her to contacts. And at this time, she's 17. She still doesn't want contact. She's going to wear her glasses. So she has had a couple of times where sand has been in her glasses. Because she does not want to, wear the contacts right now. But I
know what I'm going to say, right?
Yes. What are you saying?
You know what I'm about to say?
No.
The reason that you and Ralanda and some of the others that like to pick on me about different things, the reason your children are the way they are is because y'all used to pick on me.
We used to pick on you. So we getting it back, Tammy.
You're getting it back. But you see how hurtful it was? Okay, now you know.
And so now that I look back, Tammy, I'm sorry. Let me apologize publicly. Will you please forgive me? I apologize if I ever made you feel a certain way. If I ever made you feel, any type of way, I'm sorry. Because now that I look back, we were mean. And we used to laugh and pick. Oh, that was so rude.
And Marilyn, same question.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the things that I would say definitely shaped my perspective on just growing up and just being a girl was, like, say, for example, now don't get me wrong, I love my brother. He's awesome. We're only like about a year or so apart. But anytime we would go and visit family and friends, basically, instead of saying, hey, Marilyn, wow, look how much you've grown or whatever, they would see my brother and go, wow, look how handsome you are. How are things going? You've gotten so big. And nobody would say anything to me. It used to make me feel really bad. And I always felt like people maybe didn't love me or care for me quite the same as my brother. Growing up, it did make me feel really bad about myself sometimes because I just couldn't understand why I didn't get that same enthusiasm and love and attention, I guess you could say, that my brother was shown. The way it helped to shape my perspective and perception of things now, I would say it's not about, for me, what people think of me. I'm able now to make decisions and validate myself and not looking for validation from other people.
And finally, Sharia.
Maybe I'll give you an account of a story that happened when I was much, much, much younger. And I've always been that type of a child or person, rather, in my adulthood, that, I've been a helper, And so I remember one time early on that I remember my family, well, my brothers. I'm one of the sibling of three. The other two been older brothers, and I'm the only girl, and I'm the younger, of course. And so one time they were having a neighborhood party, and this is when I must have been no more than about 9 or 10, but they were getting ready to have like a little block party. So the brothers, of course, were very, very protective of me, when I was younger, and still are today. But so they were getting ready for this block party. Everybody kind of put everything together, and they were going to have this big block party cookout, and I was helping. And so I literally remember running back and forth from my house to like the neighborhood house where they were going to do the cookout and all that stuff. So running back and forth, meaning I was helping, like bringing food there, helping them set up. And then because the block party was going to be for all of the older kids in the neighborhood, And my brothers and I were 6-7 years apart. And so when it was time for the block party or the party, they didn't even invite me. Why are you laughing? And so
that took a turn. I'm sorry. I'm not
know,
laughing
right?
at your pain. Please continue.
And I just remember this feeling of, wow, I did all this work, I helped out, and they literally did not invite me. But not that they didn't invite me on purpose. They never felt like it was a thing that they needed to invite me to. But because I was much younger and I was a little kid sister, quite naturally, I wasn't going to be at the party with these older kids. So anyway, I kind of found things like that, as I got older, my adulthood now, that I feel myself sometimes, contributing to situations or contributing to events or contributing to a work assignment now that you said, or even aiding in, a spouse or I'm not married, I won't say spouse, but we'll say a partner. And then it's always seems as if at the end, I'm not invited to the party.
In last night's episode of Daily Affirmations for the Big Girl and All of Us web series, we explored the theme of sight, me needing new glasses, and a new prescription that included the dreaded bifocals. I thought that by acknowledging the need for bifocals, I was admitting that I was old. At the root of the issue was that of perception versus perspective. Some people think that these two words can be used interchangeably, but they are actually quite different. But before I give you the actual definition of each word, can you explain what you think the differences are? Sharia, we'll start with you first.
My perspective has always been to try to look at things, to seeing the glass, half full as opposed to half empty. Is that, a better way to look at it? And that's how I look. That's what my perspective is. As far as my perception or what people receive me to be, I mean, that I can't really focus on that too much. I do know that people kind of perceive me sometimes as being the one, again, like the helper, as opposed to, and not invited to the party per se, because they probably perceive that I don't need
somebody.
that.
We're gonna throw a party in your honor, and we're gonna make sure you get an invitation.
Well, let me tell you what I do. I have my own parties, which is so I, not that I don't need that party too.
Because this sounds like some trauma.
It's quite traumatic.
Childhood trauma.
But people probably perceive that I don't. Oh, she's okay. She doesn't need that, because I'm not the one who's going to, people maybe wearing my heart on my sleeve, even though I'm very, very giving, emotional to people, very loving. I would perceive me to be, but yeah, some people may not think that I need that invitation.
Mashawn, what is your definition for those?
I would say perception is something what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at, and how I judge things for how I judge things on what I'm seeing. That's my perception.
And Marilyn?
Well, honestly, I never really thought of what each of those words really meant. I always thought they were like interchangeable or pretty similar, honestly.
According to an article by Pauline Roos Moore with JohnMaxwellTeam.com, perception is your interpretation about a given situation, person, or object. It is the meaning you assign to any given stimulus. It's built from your belief systems, your faith, your past experiences, things you've learned. Whereas perspective, on the other hand, is your point of view or your opinion. It's the lens through which you see the world and determines how you view yourself, others, and everything else around you. So in essence, your perception serves as the foundation for your perspective. Okay, so now that we understand the literal definitions of each word, let's do a little experiment. Let's say I place an empty glass down in the middle of the table. I fill it halfway with water. Are you a glass half full or glass half empty person, and why? Marilyn, let's start with you on this question.
I would definitely say that I'm a glass half empty kind of person. The reason I say that, a lot of it is based on, I would say, how I grew up, on things that I experienced. There wasn't a lot of encouragement, not a lot of like motivation to do, to dig deep and accomplish things. As I got older, I was able to do that, but I do find myself definitely a glass half empty person trying to figure out how to fill up the glass.
Okay, and Mashawn, what is your take on that?
I would say a glass half full. The reason why is because that's what I'm looking at. That's what I see. And I think for me, since it's halfway, I'm automatically gonna say half full, because if you add more, you're gonna have 3/4. Then you add more, you're gonna, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be filling. So to add, to say half empty for me, it's like taken away.
And finally, Sharia.
I'm half full.
And why?
And if I perceive, and if I'm, understand the way you gave both definitions, because I always think in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking that, you know what, it's always something better, or something that's always going to be good, or you're going to be in this the place where you need to be, but it's always going to be, that place where you need to be is always going to be greater than where you are now.
Thank you all so much for sharing. On this episode of Daily Affirmations for the Big Girl and All of Us the Morning After, we have joining with us fellow DAFT Big Girl Ralanda Waller. If you're thinking that the voices in this podcast are similar to those of the first episode, you'd be right. But is it my fault that I hang around interesting people? Anywho, back to Rolanda's introduction. Among other things, Ralanda is a professional news editor, a mother of 3, wife to John Waller, and a former collegiate basketball player. She has led a very interesting life, all of which we will allow her to speak on. Welcome to the podcast, Ralanda.
Welcome, Ralanda.
Hey, welcome,
Hi, Ralanda.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was awesome. I have done so many things.
Okay, so Ralanda, let's get right to it then. You gave us a little backstory during last night's episode, but for the benefit of those who may not have seen the show, tell us who you are and how you got here.
Well, that introduction says it all, but I am Ralanda Campbell. And
Wait, are you Ralanda Campbell or you Ralanda Waller?
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm Ralanda Waller. I'm Ralanda Campbell Waller. Okay.
Yeah.
But everybody knows me as Ralanda Campbell. I am a wife and a mother and a friend of many.
I know you have 3 children, correct?
Yes. So
okay.
my first daughter is Ariana. She's now 23.
Wow. Okay.
and so I'm 40 something, but in my head I'm 27. So a lot of my activities that I try to partake in reminds me of how old I am. But having my 3 children, really, I felt like every time I had a child, something was taken away from me. Not physically, but like my grit and my ability to do things were drastically being taken away little by little. My first daughter, Ariana, not that much happened. I still came out, looking like I didn't have a baby. And I still participated in intramurals. I participated in some camps and more.
So were you playing basketball at this point?
Yeah.
Still?
Still playing basketball. I was like officiating camps and stuff like that. So I was counselors and still, running with the little ones. After I got married and had my daughter, I have some elements that slows me down a bit. And I've tried to adjust to them slowly. I'm still trying to adjust because, like I said, I think I'm 27. And my body reminds me that I'm not.
So, Ralanda, do you mind telling us about your ailment and what you experienced while seeking treatment? Were the doctors able to identify what was going on right away?
Okay. So it started, I had a pain in my shoulder. And I thought it was just I pulled a muscle, something like that. I had X-rays, CAT scans, all that done, MRIs, and nothing came up. The only thing they could say, they said I had bursitis in my arm, so they gave me a cortisone shot, but that doesn't work at all. That did not help me at all. So I'm thinking it has to be something else. So they did some blood work and saw something that was unusual. So they told me to go see the rheumatologist. Went to see the rheumatologist. He says that it's one test that tells you how much inflammation is in you, is occurring, and that was high on my part. So that was causing a lot of, like, it would make my heart will pound real fast. My pulse would go up really fast. But with all the tests that they ran, they could not identify my condition. They called it connective tissue disease. Every time I tell another doctor that the rheumatologist told me that, they would say, oh, so they don't really know what it is. I just take medicine to manage the inflammation. That's all I do right now. And I've heard my friends tell me that they started off like that, and then they found out later that they had lupus. But
wow.
But so far, those results are nowhere near pointing towards that direction, thank God. But so I've tried different things, and one thing that I've tried, and you guys might want to try, I don't know, but my hands would swell. Like if I would go pick up a case of water, my hands would swell. If I go outside and work in the garden, because I love working outside in the garden, my hands will swell. Like anything with some where it's pulling my fingers or my wrist, my hands will swell. Now, I've used my wrist and my hands a lot in my life. Basketball, I mean, track, volleyball, keyboard. I play the drums, and now I'm on the computer all the time. Mm-hmm. So I use it a lot. But a friend of mine told me to use turmeric.
But just about the turmeric, which is one of those spices that helps with inflammation, even though it is a spice, and you would think because it's spicy that it may cause some sort of inflammation in the body or something. You may think, oh, that's a spice. And some people who are having some digestive issues, it may be a thing. So you may want to be careful about that. But typically, or ideally, I would say a lot of spices like turmeric, or those spices that have maybe like a little bit of a heat associated to it, and that's in layman's term too, that has some heat associated to it, they typically help in aiding in reducing inflammation.
So I've been using turmeric for the past month, and I have no swelling.
You look at everything as far as what you're eating as eating things that will help reduce inflammation. I think you're winning that way. And just be careful about it, because again, some of these are associated with being a little bit more spicy too. But if you are that type of person, make sure you don't have any sort of digestive issues, which too, that can be some form of inflammation too. But just make sure you're not eating anything that's going to aid in flaring that up.
And my hands right now should be swollen because I've been on the computer all night and all this morning, and my hands are not swollen.
JointHealth.org wrote a piece on arthritis and discrimination in which they discussed the various forms of bias against people who suffer from the ailment. Things such as the belief that people are too young to have arthritis and employers refusing to modify a workspace because it's not a real thing would be two such examples. Now, Ralanda, I know that what you are dealing with has not been classified as arthritis, but have you experienced any of these types of biases?
Yes, whenever I go to the doctor, I look fairly young. So when I go for my shoulders hurt, and when I was trying to,
I mean, you don't look that young, but okay, yes, I'll give you a pass.
Come on, somebody. Okay. All right, then. So
I mean, you're all right, but go ahead, please continue.
Okay, so my when I was getting treatment for my hands and my shoulder, they would say I'm too young to have this, like I'm too young to have arthritis, so they wouldn't check me for it. Mm-hmm. They would just automatically think like there's no way it could be that. Well, let's try doing something else. Let's do a steroid shot. Let's give you some prednisone. Let's give you, they just blow it off. But then when the prednisone run out, my pain is back. So it's not until recently I went to a hand specialist, and I was thinking like maybe it's carpal tunnel. And he looked at my hands and he said, "Your hands look like you have rheumatoid arthritis, but you're too young to have that." I said, "I know, but can we please check?" So he did X-rays on my hand, and he didn't see anything. There was no rheumatoid arthritis, but it just appeared that way. My hands looked that way. But I also noticed that my dad's hands look the exact same way. So I don't know if it's genetic or something kicking in, but his hands, like, they look exactly the same. Like where my hands, my wrist is swollen, his is swollen. The way our hands lay our thumbs and everything is the exact same way. So it's important to know like your health history, like with your family and stuff. I'm trying to keep that up for my children now because back in it, like I said, them back in the day, they didn't complain. They didn't keep records of that stuff. And then they didn't have the health treatments and places to go now that we have. So they just looked at it as you get over it, or you got gout, and it's arthritis, you'll be all right. Oh, it's because it's cold outside. That's why your knee hurting, It's getting ready to rain.
Marilyn, I wanted to come to you because you have been diagnosed with RA, rheumatoid arthritis. What, if any, biases have you received from people who look at you and think that you're overreacting or not really feeling pain?
So when I was originally diagnosed with RA, I started working out. I was doing really good. I was walking like 5 to 10 miles a day. I was feeling really good. Take my dog. It was great. And then all of a sudden, or at least it felt like all of a sudden, I was just really achy. You know that feeling you get like when you just start working out for the first time after a while, but usually like within a week or so, you start, feeling a little bit better and you start really catch your rhythm. After a while, I would walk like maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes into my exercise. And I couldn't walk anymore. My feet hurt so bad. I just couldn't put weight on them. I couldn't do anything.
Did you think it was like your shoes or something?
I did. I got the, I don't know if any of you all are familiar with the Vibram, like the I call them 5-finger toe shoes.
The web toe shoes.
Yeah, those shoes. I, at that time, went to the store, because my husband at the time, he's like, well, why don't you try these? I've heard about these. And even though they look weird, they were pretty comfortable, but it wasn't too bad. But I started having pain in other areas, like my joints, and I was just achy all the time. So basically, it was trying to explain to everyone how I felt without them seeing that I was in pain was very frustrating because nobody understood. My family didn't understand why I couldn't get out of bed right now or anything like that. And it wasn't until I actually went to the doctor and they started running tests and started telling me different things that I realized what the issue was.
Does the fact that you have been able to more or less maintain your same weight since college play a factor in the responses you get from people who look at you?
Yes. I have a friend that, oh my gosh, she's overweight. We're about the same height, and her conditions.
At first,
are
I thought you were
similar.
talking about me, but you said you're about the same
Yes,
height. You got me a few
Yeah,
inches. So I know you're not talking about me.
Yeah. Not this time.
Okay, not this time. Go ahead, please continue.
This person, she's had children too. She has three children, and we have some of the same elements. But hers has progressed very fast, and like I think she had to have a hysterectomy or something like that, But somebody, like, she said that people will look at her and say, it's because you need to lose weight. That's why you having these problems. But I said, okay, so what's my problem then? I'm not overweight and I have the same elements she has. So what's my problem? Like, it can't be a weight thing. It's something else.
Right.
You know?
Do you think people make light of your suffering because you look healthy?
So, but when I go into the doctor's office, they never like look at my weight. I've never had that thing. It was always been, you look too young. They never looked at my weight and say, oh, you look like you're in great shape. Why are you hurting?
I do a literal weigh-in each week to check my progress and find out how close I am to reaching my wellness goals. But here on the podcast, we like to give our audience members the chance to conduct a weigh-in of their own. This is the part of the program where you can get in on the discussion. Our first few questions come from at AJL2909 Audrey, who would like to know how you have managed the emotional impact of no longer being able to perform at such a high level of athleticism. Ralanda, this question is for you.
Well, I was good enough to get a scholarship. And after collegiate, I was invited to try out for the Charlotte Sting. So, and that's WNBA level. So I could have took it further than just college, but I declined the offer. How do I feel? I try to avoid putting myself in situations that will remind me that I cannot do that. So I don't carry my basketball. I used to carry my basketball in my shoes, and I would always have on shorts up on whatever I wore to if anybody was trying to, come at me, I'm like, we can go right now. But nah. Now I got 3 chairs in the back for when I go to my son's soccer game. So no, I try not to put myself in those situations because it can be depressing, but I got my children as a distraction, so it doesn't bother me that much anymore.
The second question is, are you still able to play any other types of sports or activities, and do they help with your condition?
I would have to say no and yes. It depends on I still run. I race my children all the time and I play soccer with them. My daughter is playing volleyball right now, so I play volleyball with her. I still do some things, but I don't do them like I used to. Like I'm going to play basketball today, y'all. Let's go outside and do this. I only initiate them when they are doing stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I do more gardening than anything now.
Well, Ralanda, thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on this week's podcast. As a regular member of the Morning After podcast and web series crew, I know that we will be hearing a lot from you in the future. But is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know that you'll be doing in upcoming weeks, months, and years?
What I'm going to be doing now and in the future is I'm starting my dad we always watch these bodybuilding contests and these fitness contests. And my dad would say, I would do push-ups and bench press. And he said, don't do too much because, some of the women look like they don't have a chest. So, but the fitness part, when they do the fitness, they don't go to that extreme. So I had a friend that did it and she looked amazing. So that's something that I'm trying to do right now since I get, the tumor got me moving. So I started last week working out, doing a little bit more weight than what I was already doing. And when I get to a certain point where I feel like I can't do any more by myself, then I'm going to try to get in touch with Sean. And I'm going to get in touch with Sharia before Sean because I need that to see what I need to be eating to keep me lean so I can, so the cuts and stuff can show, Mm-hmm. But I have to get in touch with Sean so that she can push me in the right directions to make sure that I'm targeting those muscles that need to show up in a fitness contest.
And with that, episode 2 of the podcast is over. Before I go, I would like to leave you with a word of affirmation. Despite the perceptions and perspectives of others to the contrary, you can do this. Remember, just like you, the perceptions of others are informed by the environment they've grown up in and what they've learned along the way. While receiving helpful suggestions from others is a good idea, your perspective of self is the one that matters the most. The confidence you exude and the rationale behind why you continue doing what you do for your health and wellness hinges on you. No one knows your struggles or what you need better than you do. A wise woman just reminded me the other day that you will never be able to do enough to satisfy everybody. So, stay the course, my friends. You're moving in the right direction. And if you are ever in doubt and find yourself in need of a positive perspective, we're only one vlog away. Please be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. At this time, I'd like to thank our special guest, Ralanda Waller, for stopping by and talking to us. Thank you also to my DAFT Big Girl cohorts, Marilyn Fisher, Sharia Robinson, and Mashawn Banks. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to you, the listener, without whom I would be hard-pressed to do what I'm doing, and none of this makes any sense. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. Until next time, do good, be well, ta-ta, and bye. Today's episode was brought to you in part by Mashawn B. Fit, RCW Multimedia Tech, Arias, and Designs by 510s. Links to these fine businesses have been provided in the description following the podcast. If you would like to be a part of the discussion, please send your questions by email to info@bposproductions.com or any of the daily affirmations for the Big Girl and All of Us social media platforms using the hashtag DAFT Discussions.